Twisted, guessing every scene. Nash brings a crowd to midnight storm. Blood and fear forevermore. To the start, story thrives. Where horrors, wolves, and dreams survive. Welcome to TRS.
That must be one of the most brutal intros we've ever had. Hey, everybody. Welcome to TRS. Today we have writer-director Chris Nash. He wrote and directed the most talked about horror movie of 2024. You could see it. You could have seen it in theaters. I believe it's available on video, but it premieres tomorrow on the Shudder Network. In a Violent Nature. Chris, welcome to the show. We're all massive fans. I can't believe you're here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, not a problem at all. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. You've been busy lately. One of your first full-length movies is taking the world by storm. You get picked up for a sequel almost immediately from our perspective. I'm sure it was longer for you between, all things going on. But what have you been up to the past couple of weeks?
The past couple of weeks, we're all, me and my producing partners, Peter and Shannon, we're all in hunkered down working on what's going to happen in the sequel. It's been a lot of that, and just trying to figure out where to go with this movie.
How you holding up?
Okay, I guess it's pretty weird. It
I
feels
can imagine.
like internally it feels like nothing changes, like nothing has changed. But it's pretty wild. Like even yesterday, seeing I was tagged in an Instagram video, like an Instagram reel of the premiere in Chile, and like seeing our monster man, like somebody in the suit in Chile, like outside of a theater with a lineup and like people going there and cheering. It's just nothing like we ever would have expected.
That's amazing.
It's pretty wild, and the movie itself is just taking a life of its own, so we're so outside of it that it's a little weird.
That's got to be such a rush.
Yeah, you'd think so.
No, but is it terrifying?
No, it's I don't want to say like it'll sound ungrateful to say it feels like nothing, but it kind of feels I guess the thrill that you would expect isn't there because you still don't understand it's happening, I suppose.
Okay. Yeah, it's still swirling. Like it's when you start drowning, you're not sure where it's gonna go. You're like, oh, what's gonna happen?
But also like we know what movie we made. We were there every day, and when like our trailer was released, a lot of like YouTube channels will talk about upcoming films, and our trailer was released the same day that the trailer for Alien Romulus was released. So we're having people talk about our film in the same breath as like Alien Romulus, and we're like, no, these are not the same. This is like, we did not start at the same starting blocks. This is and the race at the same time. This is
you're able to take some of that news cycle. That's amazing. Like I'm up there with a legendary franchise. That's all. I want to get some background, and I promise not to dig in this too much, but who were you as a kid? Were you like the film nerd Dawson who knew someday you were going to make a movie, or were you something else? Were you like a jock or I don't know.
Yeah. How do you view yourself as who is?
I know what I was a nerd.
This is where I can say
I was
anything.
the poor kid nerd.
Yeah. No, that's pretty much it. I grew up in Northern Ontario, Canada. This border town, outside of this border town called Sault Ste. Marie. So bordering the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Yeah, I was about I grew up like rurally on a dirt road, about half an hour out of the city.
More life, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm 42 now, so born in the 80s, growing up rurally and at the dawn of the VHS age. So it was a lot of growing up with videos and just going to the video store, like whenever we're heading into the city, and just one of those kids that got the 7 movies for 7 days type deal, and you just sit there and devour them and
Sure.
watch Puppet Master over and over again for no reason, because it's what you had.
Did you walk past I Spit on Your Grave as a kid, wishing someday like you wouldn't get in trouble for renting it?
No,
That
I
was
was
my life.
no,
It
my
was like I
parents
couldn't bring that box home. Sorry.
I Spit on Your Grave was definitely one that took me a while to see, but only because it just wasn't available at any of the places. I'm sure it's because the
Oh,
video
oh.
stores would not carry it with that box art.
But Demi Moore is the cover. So when did you get involved in filmmaking? What was your first job?
I didn't start working in the industry proper until I was about 35, I think. And then
Wow.
then that was a job that my friend Steve Kostansky, who's a prosthetics artist and an amazing director as well. He had me working on one of his films in the prosthetics department, because it was one of those things that I did a lot of. I worked in prosthetics. I was always building things and gags, but because I wasn't trained at all, I had no confidence in my ability, and I was
I
never
was going
wanted
to
to
ask
get a
how you got
job.
started. Yeah,
Yeah.
because in Pittsburgh, I'm the land of Tom Savini. I know how most people around here get started. How did you get started building these gags and prosthetics, like as a
Oh,
hobby? Just like, can I do that?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was like in high school and like leading up when I went to film school and left Sault Ste. Marie area for Toronto,
Okay.
the big city. But before that, if I was doing anything with my like stealing my parents' camcorder and trying to make whatever I could, um, I was really into stop motion animation. That's actually what I originally wanted to go into, was animation, but I just didn't have the artistic talent to do that. Um, so, and also being more driven as a storyteller, I had it in my brain somehow that, you know, it would be so much easier just to be an actual director and direct actors to tell your story rather than slave over an animation for years before you could like tell one single story. So that's kind of how I got into film and messing around with camcorders, and then everything did have a slant towards horror or genre or just transgressive things. Uh, I liked effects. I just liked big goopiness, and I learned what I could from um, DVD special features was a big one. Even
Hmm.
if they didn't have tours of effects shops or anything like that, they would have at least behind the scenes stuff inside the effects shop, so you could see, a mold and be able to like pause that and kind of figure out, oh, how they made this mold
How do
or
they
like
do
what they
that?
did with the
Yeah.
stop. Yeah, stuff like that.
Let
I
me do
appreciate
this
that.
first.
Okay.
I thank you. When you first came up with this idea, how long did it take from your first thought of the idea to the first sentence you wrote on page one? Like where did that journey come from, or how was that
Um,
journey?
it was definitely, I think, over 10 years at least.
Okay, fair.
Um, it was an idea that I had when I was watching. Like the biggest inspiration for this film was Gus Van Sant's work. He did a trilogy of films called Jerry and Elephant and Last Days, which we just tried as best we could to rip off all of his formal techniques to make those films. And a lot of what they were revolving around was a storyline that was sometimes very intense and sometimes also just very casual, but always following a specific character at a time, sometimes directly behind like we did, but always
Yeah.
staying with one character and letting them dictate the pace of the film as they walk through different environments. And the environments also played such an important role in how the characters themselves interacted with the film. So what would normally be like a lot of people could just say is like very, very boring, like art house cinema. I was just really fascinated by it, and I thought they were incredibly compelling movies. And it's the kind of thing that I really I really enjoy it. Like it's a form of what I consider pure cinema, in that you can't translate those films into a script or into
Right.
a painting or like anything else. They exist as cinema on their own. And being a horror fan, I always wondered how could that be applied to genre cinema, like in really standard genre cinema, like things that you would assume were very rote, tropey stories that you've heard a million times before. And that's how I settled on using a slasher, because slasher is just like one character, and then also the environment that a slasher exists in is so important to that to the whole mythology and the iconography of a slasher. So I always, at that point in time, I was like, oh, this would be an interesting idea. This would be an interesting take, just to follow a slasher in one of these movies, somebody who doesn't talk, doesn't necessarily emote, and just exists, and see what that is. See what
They're
that
a
looks
force.
like. Yeah.
They're a
But not
force
even-
moving through your scenery. Yeah.
Yeah. And staying with them from a relatively objective distance. And I didn't really have anything else to pad that with. I was just really thinking of the formalist techniques doing that, and what that, and wondering what it would look like and what it would feel like for an audience to be in that space. And I left it as that for years and years and years, until one day I was working on one of my friend Steve Kostansky's films called Psycho Gorman. I was working in the prosthetics department, and we were kind of all just like hanging out, downtime of a scene, and talking about slasher films and wondering what possibly could be done with them new. And then I just pitched this idea to everyone, saying, oh, there's an idea that I thought could be kind of neat to see in a slasher film, and it was just relaying basically how I would approach it through, like, with something like In Violent Nature. And everybody was very receptive to it, and they were like, hey, if you want to do that, then yeah, we'll do that. We'll help you out with it however we can. And so yeah, from there, the Peter Kaplowski and Shannon Hanmer, who are producers on Psycho Gorman, they were like, yeah. And I was working with them on another project that never got off the ground, or has yet to get off the ground. I'll say that. I'll keep my hope up.
Fair enough.
But yeah, they were like, yeah, sit down and write that. We'll try to get it done.
So was Johnny an intentional name, or like, yeah, I'm just gonna call him Johnny for now. I'll figure out something later.
It was both. I'm terrible with names, so everybody and anything that I've ever
Same.
done is just a friend, or a family member that I have, just because I'm not that person that thinks of, no, this person,
The perfect name for that character, like Luke
Perfect.
Skywalker,
Yeah.
brilliant, love it. But
exactly.
Can I
It's
chime
not
in
like-
and ask, like, Aaron is spelled Ehren in the credits. That
Yep.
was a choice, or was that a friend you know?
That's my friend Aaron. Yeah.
That's awesome. Huge Aaron fan, by the way, but that's a whole
Yeah.
different discussion. So yeah, Aaron was well, never mind. We don't
hey,
have to spoil the
speaking
warning.
of Johnny, I don't know if we can get this up. Somebody made
Sorry.
a fan video. I don't know if you've seen it yet. We can't play the music, but it's El
Oh,
DeBarge.
the music's what makes it. Yeah.
I know, but we can't play
I
it. We'll
don't
get
think I've
kicked. Can we
seen
just show like a little bit of it?
You haven't seen it?
I don't think so.
You got to play it.
Oh, we have to show it to him then. I mean, if he hasn't seen a fan video of his, okay.
unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I haven't seen this video, but I've seen the costume.
Yeah, just to kind of real quick, what we're trying to do is I made a comment like, we should play Who Is Johnny, looked it up for a cover song, and this was like the first thing that popped up. I was like, this is amazing. And by the way, that's
Beaten
Houston
El
Horror
DeBarge.
Film Festival, by the way. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I like the fact you come out ahead of El DeBarge. You got to kill the audio.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to cancel our show.
Thanks.
But yeah,
Had to
so,
hear it
get
for a
it
second.
awful.
Had to hear it for a second. It's good.
yeah, it puts it in context. But whoever did this did a hell of a job doing the cosplay. Well done.
I know.
Plot twist,
Yeah.
it is Tom Savini.
Sure.
I can't wait to see you ripped off in all the Halloween stores across America next year.
Oh, yeah.
Almost immediately it happened. That was pretty crazy too. When we just after the trailer came out, somebody found like this bootleg costume out of China that looked like a almost like a repainted GIMP mask, just on like vinyl
Right.
costuming, and we were just like, this is a bizarre costume, but you feel a little flattered that like, oh, did we enter into a layer of the zeitgeist that we didn't realize existed?
Yep.
So, yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
But this costume
not
is
quite
amazing.
Yeah, I like it. And yeah, I can't wait till you have a pop figure too. But they're gonna have to pay you for that. I'm
Yeah,
buying it.
yeah.
I'm buying.
In
I'm
which
done
case,
with
yeah, I
pops,
can't
but
wait
that
till
one
I
I'm
have
buying.
one either.
So was the Johnny mask called like Outdoors Massacre Woods Guy? Like they always have like some weird off name. They can't directly rip you off, so they have to call it something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a woodland slasher or woodland killer or something like that.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, speaking of the woodlands, I watch Canadian videos a lot, like particularly people out in the woods building stuff or stealth camping with Steve Wallace. I don't know if you've ever seen that guy's
Oh, yeah,
amazing.
yeah, Steve
He's
Wallace
on
is
he's
amazing.
on the coast. And Michigosh, and I love Canada, but one thing I know about the woods is there's mosquitoes pretty much everywhere, right? How did you guys
Yep.
deal with the onslaught of insects for however long you were filming in the woods?
Oh, well, we went through 2 seasons. So we went through the black fly season in May, and we shot for three weeks in there, and then we did 2 weeks in like prime mosquito season afterwards. And I was okay with it. Like it wasn't anything I'm not
Country boy.
too. Yeah, it's not too foreign to me, but we did have quite a few crew members from Southern Ontario, which is just living in Toronto or any other larger city and not spending a lot of time in Northern Ontario or in the woods. And they were just in complete mosquito suits throughout the duration of the shooting, and even then going crazy just because they can't keep them all out. And yeah, there was a lot of problems with that. That was one of the things that can sometimes like slowed us up too, just because you get so frustrated if you're being attacked by mosquitoes. Like you hold yourself together, but it does reach a boiling point. But the boiling point comes like immediately. Like you're just fine, you're fine, and then all of a sudden you just start screaming at everything around you.
I've
because
been
you
there.
just can't
I've been
take it
there
anymore.
too.
Yeah. Especially with Johnny, because there was one scene. It's like one shot that a lot of people comment on, where he's walking through like a meadow of flowers during like a sunset, and it's just looks very crisp and very
It's a beautiful scene.
yeah, and but for that one, what you think is a meadow of flowers is a swamp, and so it's just full of mosquitoes. And we built 2 masks for Rye Barrett, our actor. One of them is a full covering, and then for all of the shots we do behind, it's a mask that has the face completely open, so we can see. So he does.
That's 2 questions ahead. I was going to ask if there was a special mask just so he could walk with the camera
Oh yeah,
behind him.
yeah. So,
Okay.
but that mask with the complete opening just became also like a mosquito net as he's walking through this swamp full of bugs, and they just all flew in there and just ate him alive. Got really rough sometimes.
Sweat-soaked cow skin is a mosquito favorite, I think. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Rye. How was he on set? Like, was he miserable having to wear all that? Like, with all this? Like,
not at all. He
Trooper?
We were constantly apologizing for what we were putting him through, but he just understood. Like, he understood what kind of movie we were making, and he's a seasoned actor within the genre community in Canada, and especially within Toronto. He's been acting for I've seen him for like over 15 years in stuff, but we never had a chance to work together. And when it came time to shoot the film the way we did, it was a rough pitch, saying, we want you're the main character for the entire film, but we're never going to see your face, and you don't have a line of dialogue. and we're gonna cover you in a leather sack. But like, do you want to be a part of this?
Flashback scene or something? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. But he's also an incredible genre fan and understood completely right from the start the kind of movie we were making and just really wanted to be a part of it. So yeah,
It's
he
amazing.
was game the entire time.
How isolated was your set?
It depended on the location. I'm a bit of a lunatic in so far as if I didn't feel that we were in the middle of nowhere, if I didn't feel it in my bones, then I was kind of like, I don't want to shoot here. Like I wanted that atmosphere of like the crew knowing they were more isolated than they should be, I suppose.
I don't think
So-
that's lunatic at all. I think that's fair, because what are you missing? Are you not seeing the jet in the sky that you'll have to either cut that scene or edit and spend money on it? What are you
Yeah.
missing that makes it not feel that way? I think that's legitimate myself, but
Yeah, so there was quite a few locations where we were very far away from civilization, but we kind of shot all within maybe like a half hour radius of Sault Ste. Marie proper, to get everything. But yeah, it was very remote.
hey, we have some questions from the Reddit. I posted it asking people if they had questions for you.
Yeah, we've
can I read
got
one of them?
Beautiful Quality 402 asked, what motivated him to use a locket as the key to keeping the villain dormant?
Nothing super special other than trying to think of things, like so much of conceptualizing the movie was trying to think of iconography, like things that have repeatability, things that don't that are recognizable from a distance or seem even just, I don't know how to describe it. It's like in culinary world, it's referred to as like mouthfeel, but it's kind of the same as like mouthfeel for film, where you could feel like, oh, I feel like this should be a part of that world or the world of slashers in general. Like yeah, that kind of a trope that's not really a trope. And I was trying to think of those things, and a locket just seemed to be something that imbued a sense of history in itself as an object to be a MacGuffin.
And it has a value, emotional and monetary. So most people would treasure it for
Yes.
one or both reasons. Yeah, I like it. Do you got the next one, Dan?
Well, yeah, it was. This was actually, I wanted to bring this up during our discussion when you were talking about budgeting and costs. This is from Seth Weaver, 1979. I'd like to know if there were any kill scenes that were cut or planned scenes that became too difficult or expensive to execute in terms of effects.
Yeah, there was a couple. The scene where there's a two girls flirting with you on a dock.
Yes, the love story. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, the sweet.
I
love
could have went
story.
longer, by the way.
yeah.
That's actually going to be the sequel. Sorry.
Let him answer.
That death scene was supposed to be completely different. That was one that conceptualized it was the Johnny walks up to the shore, all executed in one shot. That was the whole thing. That was the self pleasure I was feeling as a director, to try to like do something super epic. And it was all going to be one shot. Johnny walks up to the edge of the lake. He sees the two characters talking and flirting with each other and expositing all the dialogue they need to. And then when he walks into the water, the camera was supposed to, in my mind, follow him into the water and go under the water with him as he's walking along the bottom of the lake, and just execute the same kind of following shots, but along the bottom of the lake.
I was expecting it too when I was watching. I was like, is
Yeah.
he going to do it? Is he going to do it?
And
then I had
then
a Highlander flashback, and I was just hoping it was better than the Highlander underwater scene.
no, it wouldn't have been. That was part of the issue.
Okay.
It would be much worse. But and then the whole scene was gonna culminate in him stopping, looking up, seeing legs kicking above the surface, or like below the surface of the water, taking his hook, hooking the girl's leg, pulling her down, and then it was like a back and forth of seeing her scream at him. Then we cut out of like dealing with one solid shot. We're going back and forth with them just for safety reasons, shooting underwater. and then watching her drown, and then he grabs her leg, unhooks her leg, lets her float up to the surface, and then we just follow him as he walks out of the lake. That was the original idea.
Yeah.
I didn't have a sense of reality, I guess is the best way to put it,
What-
as far as how you would pull that off. And I was thinking, yeah, we'll just find like a relatively calm lake. But like, even if you find a relatively calm lake, as soon as you start walking on it, that silt is gonna eliminate your vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And so
most
then
will shoot in a pool and add filters, and that feels fake. And
exactly. And I was so against that. But then it became obvious that if we were going to do that, we needed to do that. Or if we're going to do this at all, that's what we needed to do. So we ended up scouting a pool, and we found a pool that could work for the depth and what we were thinking, but it was nowhere near long enough. So then we were really talking about how many footsteps could we get in this pool as far as following somebody, and then we realized that we would have to get a bunch of different passes of following him, and then have artificial something float over the screen to stitch these two shots together to make it seem like it's longer. And there's only so many times you can use that magic trick before everyone realizes, yeah, we get it. 5 steps, leaf. 5 steps, leaf. 5 steps, leaf. Like, that's the way it is. So then that whole scene changed to, well, what if as he goes underwater, we just stay over top of the water?
Yeah.
And we'll hover over top of the water. We'll build this skiff that has a jib arm on it. And the way we worked it out was we found a connector plate that was powered by an electromagnet, so we would be able to like stay on the shore, and then as he walked under, the camera could walk, snap on to the jib with an electromagnet, and then using a pulley system, carry that skiff over the water to where the two girls are talking. And then once we hit the girls, the camera would plunk using the jib under the water, and that's when we would do a match cut, or like an invisible cut of the camera going under the water in the pool. And then we would just need him static underwater in a pool. We could dress that however we wanted to. We don't need to worry about him walking, and then continue the death under the water. And that's easier, but not easy. And we got to the point where we started shooting that. We had to deal with incredible weather issues during our schedule. And so that day that we were supposed to shoot that got rained out twice. And it was a very expensive day. So we had to hire dive teams. We had to hire lifeguards. We had to rent the equipment, which was specialized equipment, and pay for all this stuff. And it was the most expensive day of the shoot, that we had to reschedule twice and pay these people twice. And we're dipping into our contingency funds at this point. And then when we finally came time to shoot it and we're setting everything up, I think it was just as simple as like one nut for one of the plates was the wrong size for this camera, because the rental house thought we were using a certain type of camera, because the majority of our shoot was on a certain type of camera. And that for this shot, because we were going over water, we decided to use a cheaper camera to get it, which didn't fit the equipment that we were given by the rental house. Not their fault, just complete miscommunication across the board.
And I assume this rental house was 7 hours away in Toronto.
It was 4 hours away in Toronto, yeah. So
Okay.
by the time everything's set up, if we did run back and come back, our day is done anyways. So we ended up rescheduling it. We had half a day to get this shot, and then that was our reschedule. It was like, we can't afford to lose entire days anymore trying to get this thing. And I just kept pleading, no, this is a good shot. And then when our half a day came up, that was the day that the morning that occurred, the day before our lead actor had to leave due to a medical emergency. He had to like leave set, and he was gone. And so then we've got this thing scheduled, and we're freaking out, and we have no actor to actually jump in the suit to do it. And we tried to find replacements, but the replacement that we could find could only come till the second half of the day, which is a completely different scheduled thing. So that whole scene completely changed to I guess we're just locking off the camera on one side of the shore and then locking it off on the other side and cutting back and forth. And it was a lot quieter, but in the end, I can't see that scene being any other way, given the
Yeah,
rhythm of
I'm
the
with you.
film.
Exactly.
And
feel
then the next scene,
Yeah.
which happens quickly after it, like that's
Yep.
in the movie, like you feel everything really picking up. Hey, let's get on to the next question.
Okay, I would love to know how it feels about the word camp and whether or not it describes either his influences or his film, from Tripping Fingers.
Next question. No, I think it's fine. I have.
Reddit.
Yeah.
Tripping fingers.
I'm fine with calling things campy, and there's a lot of campy things in our movie, which is I like. If it's enjoyable, it's enjoyable. I don't really like. I know what my intentions were making the film. I don't care too much about how anybody enjoys a piece of work. I think as soon as you release it, it's not up to you how anybody views it. I'm glad there are people that understand what I was going for and can see it. But if people just look at it, if people just watch it and thinking everything is boring and then just hoot and holler at the death scenes, I'm fine with that too. That's like to each his own. I get it, completely valid. So I don't think there's anything wrong with camp. And I think, like, I look at a lot of the new Shyamalan films as like campy as hell, but they're great. Like The Visit is a campy movie, and it's amazing to me. Like,
Yes,
I
so,
think that's what people don't get sometimes. That camp is intentional sometimes, and it's
Yeah.
good. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
I want it
I
to
think
be
it's
what
just-
everything else was. No, sorry.
Well, the next question comes from All City King, and he says, I'd ask if you received any pushback from anyone else working on the film about the ending. Easily the most divisive aspect of the movie. I'd be fascinated if it was a point of contention as he was making the movie.
It never was. I think everybody, everybody in the creative team knew exactly what we were doing and knew that it was going to be something that people thought would think slowed down the film. But I've come to look at the movie as a 20-minute short film with 70 minutes of introduction. Like, I really consider the ending to be almost the only thing that the movie's about. Like the first 70 minutes are very deliberate and very, you can analyze them in a really meta-contextual way, as far as like looking at how it applies to genre cinema as a whole. But those last 20 minutes for me, especially when we were in the editing room, I realized, like, oh, this is the movie. This is the movie part of the movie that we've been making. I really feel incredibly strongly about that ending. I understand completely why people are put off by it and don't want to go in that direction, and feel like it's a bit meandering. Because I would have too. I think at a certain point in my
Younger.
career,
If I was younger,
yeah, exactly. Even just like, there are other films that I watch now and I'm like, oh, that's what it was about.
I
but
get
at
it.
the same, yeah, exactly. But in my 20s, I was like, that is garbage. That is just art school garbage. It's about nothing. Whatever.
Dr. Caligari. We did have one more question. It's about asking your inspiration from Gus Van Sant, which you've already addressed. So I do want to mention that Treetop 38388 did ask a great question, but I think we just repeat going back into what we already talked about. So thank you for asking. I had one last one, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer from our first question. Do you feel like the attention and success has changed you, or is likely to, from a fan of the show, Danielle?
Let's hope. I really like. Only if.
Let me just hide back here behind the mic.
Yeah, only if it could. I think if I was I'm 42 now. I think if I was 25 and this happened, it would be a completely different story. But at this point, Yeah, I think I'm stubborn enough in my ways and my mentality, and I'm not like I don't see a lot of value in anything that fame could achieve other than being able to have a broader reach for whatever you do in your stories. So yeah, I mean,
More
I
people get
don't
to
I
take the
don't
ride
think
with
it
you.
will. Pardon?
More people get to take that ride with you at the
Yeah,
camp.
and that's
To the
great,
final,
and
yeah.
that's like
Yeah.
the most you could ask for. But I don't think the tension is going to change me or my producing partners in a negative way. I think it's just going to allow us to create more, and just the awareness that people have of us and our entire filmmaking team and all of our, and being able to uh, cast a light on all of our friends that are also amazing artists and filmmakers that, now we're able to say also pay attention to this person, which is just a blessing to be able to do.
Have you had any celebrities ask, like, while you're doing your junkets and tours? Have you had any celebrities ask to be in the sequel yet?
we we've got um we've gotten a lot of attention through the film, which is just blowing our mind. Like when Stephen King tweeted about it, that was like the one thing where I'm like, oh, I can show my parents this.
Jeez.
They know who he is.
Holy shit.
um
Yeah.
and then today, I'm in Toronto right now, so the film festival is going on, and Steven Soderbergh had a panel where he brought up the film, and it's just feels like just outside of any reality that we're in.
Yeah.
But
Congrats, man. That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's-
just
Yeah,
so
seriously.
huge.
it's
I knew
it's-
when I saw the movie, I had to talk with you. That I just wanted to talk to you about what you did and why you did it. And it was probably halfway through the film, like, I'm going to find a way to get Chris Nash. I want to talk to this guy. And thank you for letting that happen. I appreciate it. I think you're going somewhere with what your visions are and your ability to stick to it. And I wish you the best of luck. We're kind of at the end of the interview here. And I just want to end on that. There's a reason I wanted to talk with you, and it's because I think what you've done is amazing. And Zaz is laughing at me because I get mushy at the end. I I really believe in what you're doing here, and I can't wait to see the next thing.
well, I appreciate that, and it would it's not an army of one for sure. It's
No, yeah, I should mention. Do you want to make any call outs to the people who've been there?
definitely. I mean, nothing would have happened without my producing partners, Peter and Shannon. They're like the only ones. They're the ones that stuck with it the whole time, and the cast and crew. I mean, we did end up reshooting almost over 70% of the film, and they stuck with us the whole time to get it done. So yeah, just everybody.
And I want to say some. Go ahead. I say you had some really great actors in there too. That needs
Thanks.
to be pointed out. Like we
Yeah.
talked about
Oh,
Rod.
yeah.
Like there were some amazing deliveries and some amazing moments from the actors in the film too. So I mean, everybody, of course, was an actor.
Yeah. Everybody
Oh.
really brought it, and it was
And Chris, thank you so much for being here. It's been amazing. Thank you.
yeah, not at all. Thanks again for having me.